Hello. So here is your video. You might recognize the music as the vampire dance scene in Blade. I know you love that scene. So I found the song. But what we're going to do in this video is just address two different kinds of techniques for the average adult. The average adult is stronger on one side of the body than the other one, and because of that, usually there is an imbalance. And like for instance, my right leg is longer than my left leg, and so because of that, I have a gait abnormality, and that's resulted in pain in my hips and pain in my knees. So we're going to do everything unilaterally, which is just to say single leg, and that's honestly probably the best way to strengthen up, so that no matter what, both sides are having to work equally as hard. So we're going to just do some lower body stuff, and this is all exercise given to me by physical therapists that helped me with my knee pain and helped me with my lower back pain and my hip pain, but it also helps to set the body up to be able to bear impact. So any kind of walking or cardio or weight-bearing exercise, this is a great place to start. So I still like to do this several times a week to make sure that I'm keeping these little accessory muscles strengthened up. So we're going to start on our mat. So what we're going to do are seated quad raises. In a seated quad raise, you're just going to sit on your mat. Legs are straight out in front of you. Place the hands down next to the hips. And you're just going to take one leg at a time, and you're going to raise it and lower. It's just a few inches off the mat, but think about where you're feeling the power from the exercise. You should feel it here in the top of the thigh and then into the hip right here, just the hip flexor on the top. And it's kind of in isolation, so you'll end up feeling it, just right in those two muscles. So what I would like you to do is 10 repetitions on one side and then 10 repetitions on the other side. And then set, rest, and then repeat. And you're going to do 3 sets of 10 for each side. So again, that's just place those hands down, roll the shoulders back from the belly muscles, and you're just raising the leg a few inches off the floor and back down. You don't have to lock out the knee, but you're going to keep the leg relatively straight. And then the other side. And that is your leg raises. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to grab this garbage can. Now, you can use anything that will elevate your knee off the ground. This is what I've got going right now, so this is what I'm going to use. But you're going to lay on the ground, and you're going to place a pillow, a bolster, anything underneath your kneecap that's going to just elevate it off the ground. And what we're going to do is quad extensions. So you're actually just going to, with that bend in the knee, straighten the leg and come back down. And straighten and come back down. You're resting that leg completely down on, whatever is underneath the kneecap. And you're just extending and coming back down. And with that extension, you're going to feel, some work in the top of the thigh here, in that quad. Next, we're going to move into the golden exercise of all exercises, and it is called the hip bridge. And I'm sure you've seen these before, but the hip bridge is great because it works the hamstrings on the back of the leg, the quad on the front of the leg, and the calves. It really gets every single muscle in the lower body. You're going to lay down on the mat, and your feet are going to be hip width apart. Hands rest down next to the hips. If you are going to need any support for your lower back, have a yoga block close or a big pillow. But you're going to root through the heels. Just press down through the heels and slowly bring your hips up. And now lower back down. And slowly bring your hips up and lower back down. And you're going to do 10 repetitions of this, and then you're going to rest for 30 seconds, do 10 more repetitions. You're going to do a total of 3 sets of 10. Now, if you do have any imbalances, if you end up having pain in either hip, towards the back here, pain in the lower back, anything like that, it probably means there is a muscular imbalance. So whatever side you feel that pain on, think about strengthening that side especially. So for me, it's on my right side. So what I do when I do my hip bridges is I will come up and do a repetition, and I will try to focus on just contracting the muscles in the leg that's on the side where I feel pain. And then I come back down. And then I do that, because when you're feeling pain on a particular side, it usually means that the other side is stronger, and those strong, tight muscles are pulling the weaker muscles in the injured side over. And that's causing pain. So strengthening that weaker side, strengthening the side in which you feel the pain, is going to help to take that away. And that's actually how I got rid of my weak lumbar on the right side. But yeah, so this is a hip bridge. Hip bridge is just a golden exercise because you're working the quads, you're working the hams, you're working the calves, and you're working the pelvic floor. And pelvic floor strengthening is something that all of us ladies need. All right, and you're coming back down. So that is your hip bridge. Everything that we do is going to be 3 sets of 10. Now we're going to do pelvic tilts. So pelvic tilts are kind of an awkward exercise, but they are one of the most important exercises us ladies can do for ourselves, especially after the age of 30. So you're going to place your hands on your hips, and you're going to just rest the lower back, the upper back, the mid back down on the mat, feet are spaced hip width apart. And what you're going to do is you're going to tilt your pelvis up and squeeze the muscles, everything there in the center. Now bring it back down. And as you tilt that pelvis up towards the sky, you're going to feel the lower back gently come up off the mat just a little bit, and now come back down. When you're out of your pelvic tilt, your lower back is firmly imprinted into the mat. Now tilt up towards the sky and release. And when you tilt, just contract everything. Tighten everything here in the middle. It's almost like a Kegel, but it's a little bit more encompassing of more muscles. So these pelvic tilts are just amazing. So there is another exercise. And now what we're going to do is we're going to come out onto our side. So I'm going to show you just from one side, but you'll want to flip over and get the other side as well, alternating which leg is on the top. This is called a clamshell, and clamshell is great outer hip strengthening. So you're going to stack knees one on top of the other. You're going to stack heels one on top of the other, and you're going to find a nice bend in the knee. So from the side, this is actually what it looks like. It's about a 45-degree bend in that knee. And now you're just going to open up with that top hip and lower back down. Good. And when you open up, again, think about keeping the top hip in line with the one that's on the floor, keeping the knees in alignment, keeping the heels in alignment. The only thing that's moving is the knee as it comes up and lowers back down. And you're going to do 3 sets of 10 on one side, and then you're going to come over and alternating the leg that's on top, you're going to get the other side too. So clamshells are a great outer hip strengthener. So then, it also, by the way, in regards to the kneecap, the sartorius is a muscle that kind of wraps around and across the kneecap, and it's a great one to strengthen, and the clamshell definitely gets that one. So now we're going to go and we're going to do a hamstring focus. So if you're strengthening the quads, then the opposing muscle is the hamstrings on the back of the thigh, and you want to equally strengthen so that one muscle's not tighter and stronger in pulling the other weaker muscle around to its side. So these are just prone hamstring squeezes. So you're just going to rest down onto your chest. Your arms can be out before you. You can rest your head and your neck down onto the floor. But what you want to think about is a nice straight leg out behind you. And I'm going to scoot forward so my upper body is not important in this exercise, but the lower body is. So you can see my lower body. And what you're going to do is you're just going to squeeze the right glute, that right booty. You're going to squeeze to bring the leg off the floor and down. And you're squeezing into the hamstring too. So you're going to feel the back of the thigh muscles working and lowering back down. Squeeze up, just, it'll be about 8 inches off the ground. But the important thing is just that you're activating the glute, that you're activating the hamstring and coming back down. And something that's very important to make sure you don't injure your lower back is that your hip bones, your hips, maintain contact with the floor. So when you squeeze up, you don't want to lean out to the side and bring that hip off the floor. You want your hip bones to maintain contact the whole time. So the only thing that's moving is that leg as you squeeze up and come back down. And that is a prone hamstring squeeze. And you're going to definitely feel it in the back of the thigh and then the glute on each side. And that's how you'll know that you're doing it correctly. So you'll do 3 sets of 10 on the right side and then 3 sets of 10 on the left side. Now, I'm going to show you 2 more exercises, and I don't necessarily mean for you to do all of this in one day. I would say split it up and do, maybe 3 or 4 on one day, and then 3 or 4 the next time you do these exercises. I would space them apart every other day. So, don't do any of them 2 days in a row. So 3 times a week, for this grouping of exercises, however many of them you choose to do, should really start to get you where you'd like to go. Now the last 2 exercises should actually be done first because they encompass more of the muscles. So 1, it's a great way to get a dynamic warm-up, just warming up the muscles that you'll be using for the workout. And 2, you will be less fatigued when you do these exercises where you need to recruit more of your muscles. So it's just going to be a body weight squat and then a wall sit. Now a body weight squat, as you know, the thing to think about is knee does not come past the toes. Shoulders don't move, forward or backwards throughout the exercise. Shoulders remain stacked above the hips, regardless of where your hips go. So feet are hip width apart. Roll those shoulders back, firm the belly, a nice flat back. Good. I like to bring my arms forward as I squat to counterbalance, but then you're just going to come down. I don't squat fully to 90, but it's safe to do so. So if you have the flexibility to come to 90, then do it. But you can, I would say start with a demi squat, maybe a 45, and then come up. Good. And bring those hips back, knees not coming past the toes, and up. Now you see, my struggle is that my shoulders tend to come forward when I squat. But ideally, you're maintaining shoulder above the hip the whole time. Good. And that's a squat. And when you are coming down in your squat, that's when you're going to feel it the most in your quads there on the top of the thigh. But when you're coming back up, you're actually recruiting a lot of glute and a lot of hamstring. So you should feel it in those places on the way back up. You will, of course, feel it in the quad on the way back up as well. So that is the squat, and I would like you to do 2 sets of 10 for your squats to start out. As you feel the strength growing, then, maybe 3 sets of 10 from there on out. But wall sits are a really good exercise for strengthening the lower body because they're safe. Your lower back is gently pressed into the wall, and so, it's very supported. And so what I'm going to have you do is a wall sit is basically a stationary squat. So think about your squat form, knees not coming past the toes. You're finding a close to 90-degree bend in those knees. But for you, I would say 45 degrees. So you're up just a little bit from that 90. And your lower back is firmly pressed into the wall. Ideally, your wall is going to be an actual wall, not a windowsill like me, because the windowsill is kind of grinding into my back. You want to be fully supported even in the upper back. But you're going to hold this for about 15 to 20 seconds. Then place your hands on the wall, just next to those hips, and then gently press up out of it. I would say ideally, rather than, hyperextending the shoulder to come behind you to press out of it. If you do this next to a countertop or a couch or something, you can just press up and out so that you're not having to just reach those shoulders behind. It's not a very ergonomically friendly way to do things. So we have all of these exercises, and I'm going to send you a list of them as well. But 3 sets of 10 for the most part. Besides those squats, we'll do 2 sets of 10 for those, and then 20-second holds on those wall sits. So this is the lower body video, and this will set you up for walking and weight-bearing exercises on the lower body. And then I'm going to also make a rotator cuff exercise video for your shoulder work and just shoulder strengthening. And every time I do shoulders, I do my rotator cuff exercises beforehand as a dynamic warm-up. But it's just all those accessory muscles in the shoulders that are very, very helpful and preventative for injuries. So, I love you. And hopefully this was helpful. I'm sorry that the lighting wasn't the best either. Hopefully you could see me. If not, I'll make it again. Bye.